Hey guys, Brass Facts out here with a sweater cooking to death because Utah weather is bipolar and it's summer again, even though it snowed like 2 days ago. So I've actually been looking to buy another Glock 19. I have one Glock 19, I wanted a second Glock 19, so I went out to my local gun store and checked out the pricing on Glock 19 MOSs. And they're really expensive now. They're about $650, if not more. And that's a lot of money for a Glock, especially an MOS Glock, because kind of poop. Fortunately for me, just around that time frame, Magpul and Ruger came out with the Gluger, the Glonk, whatever. They came out with the, I tried, man. They came out with the Ruger RXM. The Ruger RXM actually looks quite promising, being a one-to-one sort of patent clone of the Gen 3 Glock 19. So I went out and watched a bunch of reviews, and interestingly enough, you've probably seen this too, because once again, Brass Facts is about 3 months late on a product review because my reviews take more than 3 months. Every single title or every single argumentation was something along the lines of Ruger RXM, Glock Killer, or Ruger RXM, the perfect Glock clone. Ruger RXM, you get the idea. So with that knowledge and confidence, I went out and bought a Ruger RXM with the express goal of kind of being a backup side piece to my regular Glock 19. Also happens to be a Glock 19 Gen 3. And I carried it for 3 months straight. I shot it for about 3,000 rounds, and I happened to have even done some competition with this guy. So let's go out and answer the question. Is this a good Glock clone, a Glock killer, if you will? Or is that just the same nonsense we hear every single time one of these handguns comes out? Let's go find out.
This video was brought to you by Venture Surplus, and this bag is actually something that my group uses. Meister Beast here has one, and he's used it for intended purpose of being sort of an assault lighter pack. While the designation of 3 days carries the same energy as the 1,000-meter volley sight on a Mosin, it's actually a great pack. Solid form factor, great vibes, and a good backer to help prevent the beach fallification when you stuff this thing full. And perhaps coolest of all, it's designed to directly interface with my third favorite surplus item, the USGI bandolier. Because Venture Surplus sells, well, surplus gear, you can get this banger, we still say banger, right, of a pack for about $70 used pretty heavily. You can spend $100 and get a nice surplus one that has minimal wear, and hilariously $80 for a brand new one, but it's an ACU because Venture Surplus knows no one wants ACU. Go ahead, check it out. Back to the pistol video. Being a Glock patent clone, it's much easier to mention what is different from a regular Glock Gen 3 than just try to explain the whole gun. Keep in mind, this gun costs about $380, the exact same listed price as the PSA Dagger. But because you can buy these in a local gun store, unlike the PSA Dagger, the end result is that the RXM is often going to be cheaper than the Dagger due to shipping and transfer fees. Of course, there's the X factor of PSA selling one of these for $4 combined with 27 different products, but yeah, we'll leave that out. The big party trick of the RXM is that the serialized part is removable and part of the fire control group, or the FCU. This allows the end user to, in theory, take the whole firearm out of the pistol grip and place it into, say, a PDW chassis. This has a huge upside for someone like me that loves the Flux Raider, but doesn't love that he needs to use SIG parts to get one. And I look forward to in 2032 when Flux has made a Glock Flux Raider and finally has them in stock. But as of March 2025, there is no Flux Glock Raider, nor any ecosystem that takes advantage of this removable FCU. So I wouldn't even consider this when you purchase it. Because this is a Gen 3 Glock, we still have a gun that is kind of terrible for left-handed users unless you do this weird janky reload that you see I'm doing throughout the video, where I basically have to break my grip to drop the magazine and then do this weird Condortion funky wonky thing to drop the slide at speed. It kind of looks like it works, but really, at speed, it tends to destroy your grip and representation because you have to, well, reform your entire grip every single time.
Cock!
Up front, we actually get nice tritium front sights, which is appreciated on a budget gun, though somewhat unnecessary given the included optics cut. But hey, they're metal sights. You have no idea how much joy it brings me that a company known for making plastic products was less stubborn about just including metal sights than Glock. These sights are kind of somewhere in between a suppressor height sight and a regular sight, and are visible with a standard mounted optic. At first glance, the optic cut did worry me, as this is a universal optic cut, not plate. There's no adapter being used here, and as such they need to use these small removable chintzy little bosses to allow the different optic cuts to be used. But I went ahead and did the old Aaron Cowan thing and just racked the fuck out of this thing off of a metal bench. And I then shot 25-yard groups, racked it, 25 shots group, racked it, rinse and repeat, and I'm not the best pistol shooter, so forgive this birdshot pattern, but generally the group sizes are consistent from group to group after racking it, so I'm going to say that I did not notice any major failures on the optic mounting system. Good to go there. The RXM follows up that strong start with a checkbox that I assumed you would never even need to mention in a review, but the PSA dagger exists, so we're mentioning it in the review. Our Glock clone does in fact work with Glock holsters. Holy shit. Safariland, Gray Matter Concepts, QVO, and a bunch of other generic holsters I had lying around all work. Good job. Another box that I never thought needed checking, but once again, just PSA dagger things. The Ruger RXM, like the genuine product, uses normal pins held together by the pressure of the parts flexing away from each other, unlike the, PSA dagger, which uses roll pins mashed into the frame itself, which tend to cause a lot of issues, as we've seen in a number of reviews, or the things just walk the fuck out, because that's not how the Glock was originally designed. There is some slight deviation with how it's set up due to the FCU needing to be able to be fully removed, but overall looks good here. Fit and finish of the gun probably actually does exceed the original, which was known for having really mediocre slide finish. The grip texture is pretty tame, though I'd say enough to get the job done, especially from the context of concealed carry, and once again beats the snot out of the original, which had texture that was okay new, but would quickly end up more smooth than somehow just raw plastic. There's a reason why every single Gen 3 Glock in existence has been covered by skateboard tape or been molested by a soldering iron. My only two gripes in this regard is that the flared magwell is a hair too aggressive and it tends to bite in my hand on very long training sessions, and they could have perhaps rounded out the trigger guard even more. It's better than the original, but I still get my Glock knuckle to flare up pretty damn bad every time I shoot it, and if I were to use this thing long term, I would kind of round it out there to, work on that. None of this matters if it's not reliable. The whole point of a Glock is that it's stupid reliable, and in that regard, the clone better deliver. Otherwise, what's the point? On that note... Yeah. Malfunction. Yep, malfunction. I'm just kidding. You're sweating there, though, right? No, this thing ships with Glock PMags because, of course they do. Magpul logo is on the side of this gun, but at the risk of teasing an upcoming video, Glock PMags are not good, and they shit the bed comically fast when you use them anywhere other than a flat range for any amount of time. If you use the OEM mags, as patron saint Glock Gaston intended, rest in peace, you'll get what I got. 3,000 rounds, not a single failure. Good job, Ruger, even if you did copy Glock's homework. There are two things that Magpul and Ruger changed from the original design: the grip angle and the trigger. Putting entirely way too much faith in Google AI, the RXM grip is 20.5 degrees compared to 18 degrees of MMPs or 1911s, or the 22 degrees of an OEM Glock. The difference seems small enough that you're probably not going to notice it at first, but on presentation I consistently ended up having poor indexing on target until I got a ton of reps in. Didn't really consider this, and I shot this gun pretty early in its review cycle at a match, and I had some pretty piss-poor presentations throughout, especially on the draw. If you're wondering, I didn't do so good at that match, but no, the RXM was not the failure point. It was me. The second change or deviation I don't understand nearly as well, and that is the trigger.
So I don't know what happened, but the Glock RXM Ruger Gluger thingy has a horrific trigger. You, Magpul, did you fuck that up, or was that was Ruger, right? Ruger did it. God damn it, Ruger. I swear to God. So the Gruger has some really weird trigger quirks, and that's not just like, all Glocks have shit triggers. No, this is something else entirely. When you let's make sure we don't ND one straight into the camera. When you pull the trigger on this thing, you get a very standard Glock feel, right? That kind of heavier, almost rolling trigger where you hit a wall and then you pull the trigger and then the gun breaks. Except with this gun, you get to the wall and then you keep pulling and you get a second stage of travel and then a second wall, and then it pulls exactly like a Glock trigger. One more time, wall, second wall, break. It's not the biggest deal of all times, especially since the vast majority of shooting you're gonna be doing is just like on target, pull, break. And you're gonna be pulling straight past that first wall into the second wall and then past that as well. And in that sense, it feels and sounds exactly like a regular Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5 Glock trigger.
So let's answer the question, is the Ruger RXM a good Glock clone? I mean, I'm not 100% sure what I'm calling this video, but the title is probably going to give away the answer, but the question is why? Especially since, by all accounts, thus far, the Ruger RXM has done really good, honestly outperforming the regular Glock Gen 3 in many aspects. Hold on. I just realized everyone calls this gun the Ruger RXM. But that's incredibly redundant, right? Because the RXM is Ruger by Magpul, or Ruger X Magpul. So Ruger RXM is just Ruger Magpul. Ruger squared Magpul. Okay, whatever, back to the video. I think it's a better way to tackle that question is to break it down. Who does this gun appeal to? Who's buying this gun? I think the Ruger RXM, I did it again, is a really decent gun. Metal tritium sights, the ability to use a decent quality cheap magazine, robust optic mounting interface, holster compatibility with the most prolific holster pattern on the market, top-notch reliability, parts economy allowing you to replace all of the parts now and easily into the future instead of hunting down, overpriced parts on some generic website that takes 4.5 weeks to ship. This is a solid handgun when viewed from the perspective of a handgun that happens to use the Glock ecosystem. After the first 1,500 to 2,000 rounds, I found this gun really began to grow on me, and I like it a lot. But, and I think this is where a ton of reviewers and public sentiment get this gun wrong, this is not a Glock killer because it's not a good Glock clone. Either from the perspective of someone that wants a cheap Glock now and potentially the genuine article in the future, or someone that has a Glock now and wants Glock number 2, 3, or 4. Me. The lackluster trigger is an annoyance, but the grip angle is a deal breaker. I constantly get trigger freeze with this thing because it's close enough to a Glock, but just far enough away that my subconscious bag of protein and fat keeps thinking I have a dead gun and assumes it's a malfunction. Can that be overcome by training? Yeah, easy. Same with the grip angle. There's nothing inherently wrong with the grip angle. You can train to that grip angle and have good presentation. But it is still majorly different enough from a Glock that shooting the Ruger squared Magpul makes me worse at shooting my Glocks, and shooting my Glocks makes me worse at shooting this. People that mention Glock clones and killers keep viewing it from the perspective of guns that have better feature sets than a Glock and thus are superior. That is redundant. That has already happened 27 times over with basically every single striker fire gun on the market. So when we want to answer the question of, is this a Glock killer, we need to view it from the perspective that actually matters. Are people that have and are buying Glocks going to want this? And the answer is no. So ironically, the RXM misses the mark on being a good Glock clone and then hits the target right next to it for being a solid handgun for the price. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys in the comment section. I appreciate you guys showing up day after day. And of course, I appreciate all my sugar daddies on Subscribestar. If you want to go to Subscribestar, you can go there and you get access to a once a week posting that me and Hop do called the Brock and Hop Power Half Hour, where most of the time it's not going to be a half hour, it's going to be about 15 minutes where we talk about random stuff off the cuff, generally pretty drunk. So you have that to look forward to. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.
Should have crackhead Gorman. Oh, I know. You can lick me one time. Thank you. That's all. That's enough. Yeah, you're good girl. Look at you. Your eyeballs work. Your ears work. Some of your limbs still work. Okay, thanks. Thanks for that. Oh, what a pretty dog. You got leg control back?
No, still
Still
quadriplegic.
crippled? Okay. You just stay crippled right here. If we need you for something, we'll holler.